Nights like these are therapy. I feel my sorrows fading away. I close my eyes to see the light that's shining deep inside me. I just can't sleep, get lost in these moments. Can't press repeat, gotta freeze it and hold it. I'm in too deep as the ocean. No, I just can't sleep, 'cause I'm lost in these moments. Na 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 na. Lost in these moments. Na 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 na. Lost in these moments. Na 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 na. Lost in these moments. Na 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 na. Lost in these moments. We break away and disobey. We feel our sorrows fading away. We got tonight to shed a light. Yeah, we can make it better. I just can't sleep, get lost in these moments. Can't press repeat, gotta freeze it and hold it. I'm in too deep as the ocean. No, I just can't sleep, 'cause I'm lost in these moments. Na 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 na. Lost in these moments. Na 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 na.
Welcome back. It's Thursday, day one of a 16-day batching it at the house without my wife. My kids are here though, so my son said, I'm going to fly in, Dad. I got to hang out with you. I got to make sure you're not lonely. But sorry I was late. I was actually hanging out with my 3 dogs, which is pretty amazing, actually. We're going to talk about a bunch of things today. We're going to start with talking about the guy that never gives. You see, it's always the gift that keeps on giving, but in this case, it's the guy that never gives, the midget himself, Zelensky. So the Ukrainian parliament just voted, because we believe in democracy and extending democracy and supporting people with democracy. You couldn't get any more silly than we are right now. I couldn't be any more Captain Obvious than I have been, and pointing out the fact that the last thing in the world we want is to support democracy. If democracy is mob rule and just taken away from the people and treating people like institutional slaves, we're there. But the Ukrainian parliament just voted to extend martial law for another 90 days. That means no elections and no chance for the people to get rid of Zelensky. They're literally being held hostage. And Zelensky and his mob of people, remember, I came out, it ruined my relationship with Max McGuire. He's like, I can't believe you'd support Putin. And I go, I can't believe that you would support Zelensky, given all the things that have come out of Ukraine and the Maidan coup. And he really, the point of frustration for him is that he had been taught that Russia bad. But I came out day one because I knew. And now everyone's kind of catching up. But Zelensky and his militias are still kidnapping people. And they've turned to doing something that I think is horrific. Something that you only do when you treat the people as if they're useful idiots. He's training children to fight. Children as, yeah, I'll take that. Better be careful, you might end up on camera. Sorry, I'm grabbing a coffee. At the age of, they saved you. You got saved. As young as 10 years old. However, peace is, we think it's on the horizon. President Trump is working to solidify the deal to get access to mineral rights and to put a stop to this senseless bloodbath. But after that, we're going to talk to Dan Reid of the NRA is going to join the show to discuss things having to do with the gun rights. I'm going to ask him about the 10th Amendment, the 14th Amendment. Why is it that I have to be Captain Obvious? Why hasn't lawyers posed the question of infringement of rights on the state side, regardless of what state it is? Just set a standard as the Supreme Court that it's a right that's held by the federal government. You cannot infringe upon the Second Amendment because you don't have a right to it. It's pretty simple. And we're going to talk about Colorado and Oregon, both moving past the draconian Second Amendment. And we want to talk about the 17-year-old who was murdered, student Austin Metcalf. His name is Karemlo Anthony, not the Karemlo Anthony who played basketball. But we're going to talk about the fact that he is free and that they're supporters, just kind of like killing the guy that heads up the CEO of United Healthcare. You have like this fan club. I mean, tens of thousands. And so we're going to talk about whether or not the social fabric of our country is unraveling. I think that, again, we could be Captain Obvious in that regard. Stick around and find out. We got this and much more on Untamed. Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people. Oh, hot dog, look at you. And nobody talked about what's really happening. And let's have conversations about what truth is. Okay, I'm not sure everyone can hear me because I couldn't hear the music. Could you guys hear it? Was it live for everybody else and just not for me? All right. So let's kind of break some things down if we can. And the important part for me is it's not being right. It's not being right at all. Matter of fact, that's the least of the things that I actually worry about or I care about. But I keep asking questions and I keep getting pushback. Yesterday, I talked about the FBI whistleblowers, the suspendables, and supporting them. This morning. They said, oh, you had to go after a few other people. Why'd you do that? And I was like, I didn't go after them. I mean, I haven't gone after anybody yet. I will. And the comment was made to me is, Joe, you're a man with no island. I mean, who's going to be left? And I said, the people. The people will be left. My brothers and sisters. The people will be left. And they're like, wow, but you're not building alliances with, people in power. I was like, oh, I have alliances. I have lots of them. I mean, but I don't have to flaunt those relationships. But we have this thing where Galatians 4:16 is, am I the enemy because I tell you the truth? And we have this thing where we have to walk past the truth. We have to walk past a pile of stinky crap and ignore it. And people are like, look, Joe, there's crap over there. And I'm like, no, that's not crap. That's salad. After it's gone through your body. That's what that is. That's not crap. We can't call it crap. Don't call it crap. You can't say crap. God forbid you say something about Scott Pressler. Oh, but they attacked Peter Berninger. Scott Pressler comes out and says, I was a homeless kid. And then you find out he was never homeless. That was the first story. He was homeless and decided to go. And he came out the same time as the attacks and said, now I'm gay. I'm thinking to myself, bro, you were with CAA for a year and a half before that. The CIA front deal. No, what should call it? The actor school. And you notice that most of the guys that are out there are part of this acting kind of thing, grift. But he said, Joe, you're gonna end up all by yourself. I said, I might. I'll be in good company. And it won't be because people don't support what I'm saying. It's because they won't have the courage to say that they support what I'm saying. Ukraine. Before we go through and have our guests come in and talk about things, I got to talk to you about Ukraine. I want you to see this. This is the Ukrainian parliament that voted for martial law for another 90 days. Basically said to the people of Ukraine, we're going to steal your children. We're going to seal up this fishbowl and not let you get out of the country. And we're going to Are we going to play it? I would probably start with the first one. Is it the first one? All right, let's just put it up. Ukrainian parliament voted to extend martial law and cancel elections for themselves and president until August 6th, when it will extend it again, which will be extended again. So much for democracy in corrupt Ukraine. And this is from the U.S. Homeland Security News. But that's not it. What if I told you that little kids are being trained? I mean, because why not just take propaganda, put it right on the front lines? If you even could even wonder who's the good guys and the bad guys, it's not hard to figure out. If they're grooming and raping and molesting and creating pedophilia, which I'm gonna at the end of the show, you're gonna see what's happening in Colorado. I'm gonna give everyone the opportunity to just absolutely shatter the phones and make these people pay. I'm gonna go and take pictures of the people that are there. I'm gonna make sure everyone knows who the pedophiles are. I might even make a website of possible sex offenders that are grooming children in Colorado. They want to have sex classes, school camps for kids in Colorado. We'll come back to it. But in Ukraine, it's no different. They're radical. They're Nazis. They're real Nazis. Let's go ahead and play this. This is children. They're training children as young as 10 to fight. Play it.
In Ukraine, kids as young as 10 are getting combat ready. As fighting with Russia drags on, secret military camps across the country are teaching kids the art of war, including how to shoot pistols, rifles, and even machine guns.
Я знаю, я не боюся. Я вже була і пораненою, і витягувала, і все робила.
Ukrainians realize the war may continue for many years, and they want to be prepared. Today's children may just be tomorrow's soldiers. The camps take that idea to heart with a rigorous schedule.
The hardest part is physical exercises at 6 a.m. because you go to bed at 2 a.m. and you sleep 4 hours. You need to run 3 circles, do some push-ups, some exercises, and then all day you won't sleep, won't eat.
But not all Ukrainians think these camps are a good idea. They say kids should be kids, not trained as soldiers for future battles.
Деякі батьки бояться віддавати нам дітей, тому що вони думають, що відразу після цього вони підуть там у військо. Саме ми вчимо дітей не вбивати і не готуємо з них військовими. Ми вчимо їх захищатися. Вчимо їх таким дисциплінам, які допоможуть їм вижити в умовах війни.
But that doesn't mean some of these kids don't plan on enlisting when they are of age. This 14-year-old plans to join the fight when she turns 18.
They think I'm their little girl, I can be a fighter, I can be a soldier, and I'm just saying I will get killed for my country, I will get injured for my country. And it's the choices I've made. They just...
Okay, so let me play it for you. In the United States, we're teaching kids to cut off their penises and to have sex in the 3rd grade. It's the same perversion, just a different side of the coin. Over there, you got little kids that they're, training up for war to defend themselves. So they have to grow all the way up through this idea that everything's a nail and they are a hammer. They're being taught to kill, not be kids. Now keep in mind, Ukraine was the melding point, the place that all the bad guys all hung out and still hang out, where billions of dollars have been laundered. And now 10-year-olds are out there fighting. And here's the other thing. If you're proud of what you're doing, if you believe in what you're doing and training 10-year-olds, why are you wearing a face mask so we can't see who you are? Why? What can be done in the light? If you believe this is best for the Ukrainian people, why are you hiding? Oh, I forgot. Because you're getting a paycheck. The reality of what we face in the United States is no different than they face in Ukraine. We're being held hostage at the state level, on the federal level, and President Trump is doing his best to clear that out. And then you have people all over the United States that are running around saying states' rights, federal should have less to say, which plays right into the radicalization of the states and the stealing of elections, which again hold us hostage. And nothing is a bigger example of that than Tina Peters being in jail. But hopefully Trump can broker a peace deal and get it signed before Tuesday. Here's a spot from RT News. And this is Zelensky. Let's go ahead and play it. I'll read it. What is the status of our conversations? The technical meeting was really productive and positive. I think that's good. The technical meeting was in a different format, offline in the States, online as well, yesterday and today. They are working. Our first vice prime minister is working with Besant's team and with Besant. The American side took us back to first steps, as it were. You know that we have all been working on a serious deal. They started working on what should go to Parliament. Appropriate procedures must be followed, and lawyers must work to make this a success for both states. And that's why the technical meeting was positive, because we see how the parties are going to the meeting. A couple of days ago, the American side proposed to go back and take one more step while the lawyers are working on the agreement. This is a memorandum of intent. Our intentions are positive. We are constructive, and we show it. Therefore, a memorandum of intent that is not the agreement itself, but a memorandum of intent can be signed online today. Just today, our side said, okay. Now with the American side, I understand that they are now the vice prime minister. I am working with the American side on the text. But honestly, it seems to me that this memorandum is an important first step, so we can't both countries agree. That was the midget that was talking there, not me. Zelensky. And as we transition into talking about what's happening with gun rights, because I think we do have to spend a bunch of time on the Second Amendment, I want to talk to you about what happened in Florida State University. They had to put out an active shooter alert. 4 victims have been hospitalized so far. And so this is a little bit of what we know so far. Let's go ahead and, if we can, this is the police kind of entering into FSU. Let's go ahead and play it. Do you have anything more that we can add to that? Oh, here we go. Yeah, here's the shooter firing. The victim showing the video. They're laying on the ground, but they have reportedly received medical attention, so they are alive. Let's go ahead and I'm going to give you a little bit of, this is graphic in nature. So just if you want to turn away or turn it off, let's go ahead and play it. The shooter was walking around with a pistol, and it was like one of those weak little boys, probably another radical leftist, transgender, whatever. We get in trouble for saying that. 100% that kid is going to have been on psychotropic drugs, and then they will move towards, hey, let's get rid of your gun rights. I mean, while you have 20 million illegals in this country that don't give a crap about our laws, let's take away your rights as a result of the problem that they created. One student with a CCW, concealed carry, could have ended this. People wonder, why do you carry a gun, Joe? I was at my house, and Matt Wallace, I said, listen, there's a couple of things you need to know about the house while you're staying here. I go, and I'm going through some of the things that I have in my home that are precautionary. And he goes, really? And I was like, yeah. And I have an AR-15 next to my bed with a thermal scope. He's like, really? Yeah. Can I see it? Yeah, sure. Let me take you up there. I said, and watch out for the cameras. And you can, the reason why I got this particular scope is because it's heat signature. So I can see right through the wall. Or the door, not the wall. The walls have all sorts of protections in them as well. This is how I have to live, by the way. You're wondering how I have to live like this. I have to live like this, and while pieces of shit like Goomer, with enough evidence to fill a mountain, tell us that it's all made up. All the evidence we have is a mirage. These are not the droids you're looking for. It's crazy. I'll tell you what, we're gonna take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we have a guest. So let me just tell you a little bit about our guest. We're gonna talk gun control with Dan Reid. He's the managing director of state and local affairs for the NRA's Institute for Legislative Action. He previously focused on legislative and political activities in Western states before overseeing the division. I don't know how I feel about the fact that he went to UCLA, but he does live in California. So we won't hold that against him, because I heard through the grapevine, I had a chance to speak to him, that he grew up in the Huntington Beach area, which is a rather conservative area down in Orange County. He has his wife and children. He's married. So all the good stuff that you would have, and he pretty sensible guy. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we get back, we're going to be joined by Dan Reid. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm John Tig Tigan. I'm one of the Benghazi warriors from 9/11/2012, or 13 Hours movie. If you're a gun owner or plan on becoming a gun owner, this is where DCF comes in. As one of the lead instructors over here at DCF Guns, I'm going to ensure that you can properly handle your firearm and properly defend and protect your loved ones and yourself. For those of you guys that are thinking about purchasing a gun or getting involved in firearms, DCF Guns has an introductory class which will teach you the very basics of firearms, how to store firearms, even how to pick your own firearm if you have not yet. Our next step is the 100 series. We're going to go into the fundamentals of marksmanship, which is going to be how to hold your firearm, how to sight in your firearm. Then we're going to go into the next step, which is going to be your maintenance, disassembling, reassembling your firearm. And then we're going to go into how to strings of fire, rapid fire, how to get more accurate shots on your thread. Our next step is the 200 series. With pistol, we're going to teach you how to draw from the holster and return to the holster in a safe manner. And with the carbine, we're going to teach you how to use the sling properly. We're going to teach you how to do proper reloads, what different types of reloads there are. We're going to teach you cover and concealment, what's the purpose of each and which one does what, and then good in shooting and moving, and also transitioning from your rifle to your pistol and back from your pistol to your rifle. Your next step is going to be the level 300 series. This kind of combines all your training into one step. Keep going forward is what we do. We're going to go into low light. We're going to go into close quarter combat stuff, CQB, room to room clearing, situational training and stuff like that. Your training never ends, so get in here and let's get it done. Start your training at DCF Guns today and save on classes when you become a member. And when you become a member at DCF Guns, you can unlock some major benefits. Priority range reservations, discounts on firearms and ammo, discounts on gunsmithing, and we offer a lifetime cleaning. So visit dcfguns.com to learn more, or you can contact us directly with any questions you might have.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle. All right, so welcome back. I'm not going to waste a lot of time. I told Dan if he keeps it interesting, he'll be with us for 45 minutes. So pressure's on Dan a little bit. But we're going to talk about what's happening in Colorado with SB 25003. I'm not going to dive into it, but I am going to dive into the concept of what the radical left is doing. So with that, Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, Colorado's after it with the Polis permission slip there.
It's actually disgusting because, you know, you don't have any right that they can't permissively take away from you.
I mean, they're certainly trying, and we're not going down without a fight. If you look at Colorado and the engagement we had from gun owners across that state, I was just pulling up some of the numbers from our legislative alerts, and we had 500,000 unique plus, or more than 500,000 unique contacts that went into legislators, or not unique, I guess, but total contacts that went into legislators over the course of that fight this session. We hosted a huge rally. We were involved in legislative updates, briefings, and we have more on the way. I know our grassroots team is going to be out at the Tanner Gun Show this week. We have a couple of legislative days, and there's a sportsman day at the Capitol coming up. So the fight's far from over. We're continuing contact with our litigation counsel and exploring ways to continue to pursue all options to overturn this.
Dan, you and I, the 25003 in Colorado is as far and as radical of a legislation that has occurred, other than Oregon. Oregon just went, I think, one step further. Oregon almost took you to the part where you got to have a musket. It's pretty bad there too.
Yes, no doubt.
And you and I got a chance to talk earlier today, and I said, look, it's a game of incrementalism. That they incrementally want to take away our ability to breathe, our ability to protect our families. Is that what you're seeing in every state?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of caught the end of the intro, and you mentioned I hail from California, born and raised, and we're seeing states like California where they've done everything you could ever think of, and then they're thinking of more, right? And as they've gone through and they've put forward their bans, limitations on magazine capacity, all the different things, how you can carry, limiting the scope of how you can exercise your right to self-defense. They're really after the culture now, right? And if you look at the incrementalism, they go after one piece at a time, and then they want to get towards eroding the culture of the Second Amendment for people to value, for people to gather and share ideas, find like-minded people who share interests. They want to cut off youth shooting sports, where we're seeing a huge increase in like trap and skeet shooting with the high school teams, with that youth advertising bill that they pursued there a couple of years ago. So we're seeing a lot of that. We're also seeing a big push on excise taxes. Obviously, Colorado is no stranger. We filed litigation on that on April 1st. But making it expensive that firearm ownership is going to be for the elite because you're getting hit with tax upon regulation. And ultimately, I think that you're seeing this desire to make it a liability to be a gun owner. And that's part of this incrementalism approach to really erode away at.
At the same time they're doing this, Dan, they're letting violent criminals out on the street. I mean,
They are, yeah. And it's, I think there's a lot of merit in the discussion around criminal justice reform, but going back to California, I hate to use this as the example, but I feel like everything kind of starts there and starts spreading, right? And I think that part of it is the criminal justice reform went there so far, and we had this increase in crime and violence in communities. And this was the legislature's response, was rather than recognize that those policies where bad people are out on the streets and they're continuing to do bad things. I mean, what a novel concept, right? That they said, well, let's continue to focus on guns. And even though these bad people don't ignore the hundreds of gun laws on the books today, maybe one more will go after them. And so they can say, hey, look, constituent, I did something, right?
Yeah. So so here's the problem that I have is that you can see the focus is not towards criminals. And you and I could have a discussion about reforming the justice system, but you would have to then have a conversation about throwing out about 90% of the judges out there in the school to prison pipeline, the fact that Democrats have genocided nearly 50 million black kids, black babies in the last 35 years, and that it's now become a right to kill babies. And I mean, you'd have to include all of it. You'd have to include all the fact that the Democrats are literally like the Pied Piper, walking people over to their own death in those environments, in these opportunity deserts, or they've created a business out of it. And so you could agree that both sides are true, that we need justice reform, but justice reform is coming at the expense of, Supreme Court rulings that police do not have, Gonzalez versus v. Castle Rock, police do not have a obligation to protect you. They don't have an obligation. So you don't have an obligation to have somebody protect you. It takes them, 20, 30 minutes to get to your house because crime's through the roof. Nobody wants to be a cop. And then on the other side, they say, we're going to take away your rights and or give you a permission slip to say, you have to ask me if you're allowed to carry a gun. Well,
No doubt. I mean, it's a wild world, right? And sometimes I think that if you want to, I think that there can be a really colorful discussion, and there's a common goal to reduce crime, right? We all want safe communities. And I think that gun owners, we have a very different approach than those who are intent on banning guns, right? We want to control crime, right? Versus they want to control guns, and controlling guns does nothing to address your crime problem.
No, it does. Matter of fact, they've proven it. I mean, you had a kid that in Texas that stabbed a guy in the chest, killing him instantly. That was with a knife. I mean, if you look at what happened in the UK, they went from banning of guns to banning of knives, and they still have a violence problem. And most of that has to do with the fact they've got a societal problem with corruption. Corruption bleeds down into society, and that's where you end up. But Dan, let's put all of that aside. Let's even put the laws in Oregon aside, because they're trying to pass a bunch of things that say You have 72-hour waiting period, ban on high-capacity magazines, ban on bump stocks, which have already proven to be unconstitutional. So they said it's unconstitutional, right? You can have a bump stock. But then the state says, flip the bird at the Supreme Court and said, guess what? We're going to ban it anyway. So you have this friction between states and the Constitution. So they want the Constitution to stand for things where they want it to, right? And on other things, they're like, yeah, we want to basically tell them to piss off. We can do whatever we want to the people of our state. I mean, how do we justify this? Have we not, and I'm going to get into the 10th and the 14th Amendment, how have we not come to some conclusion over the last 25 years with this incrementalism where the Supreme Court finally puts their foot down? Why do we have to go through this dog and pony show, this legal dog and pony show that costs people a lot of money and a lot of consternation and people being arrested in multiple states? Why is it we can't just come to a conclusion, sit down and say, all right, here it is. It's all drawn out. Here's the conclusion.
Here's the finality, right? Like, I look back at when I got involved with NRA. I was in law school at that time, and one of the things that drew me to it was I was a newer gun owner. I didn't grow up. I mean, I grew up shooting, but not hunting, and that was kind of my real segue into the NRA. And I remember sitting in my con law class, and we spent weeks and weeks and weeks. We would talk about the First Amendment. We talked about the Fourth Amendment. There was so much case law, so much jurisprudence, and this was pre-Heller, mind you. And we get to the Second Amendment. They talked about the Miller decision for about 7 seconds, and then we went on to the Fifth Amendment, right? Like it was a blip on their radar, and maybe that says something also about the education culture that kind of sometimes surrounds higher education. But that was something that drew me to it, to say, hey, why aren't we pursuing this in the courts? How do we get there? How do we get this this constitutional right, the same respect that other rights are given? And so that was obviously a number of years ago. And there's been a lot of excitement surrounding it, but cases getting up to the Supreme Court do take time. In fact, we were just talking recently, I was talking to a colleague about the Duncan case, NRA supported case that we filed nearly 10 years ago now, right? It's a slow approach. And some of that's a little bit circumstantial because over the course of that case history, we did have the Bruin case. It got remanded back down and then it had to kind of crawl its way back up. But, this is an exciting time, and I'm hoping to see more and more answers. We're hoping to see SCOTUS take up some more cases, especially when it comes to, features and semi-autos and whatnot. We have a whole docket as part of our comprehensive litigation program across the country. And so we're really working to get cases up there so we can get some more clarity.
Well, I feel, Dan, here's my problem. I feel like the same incrementalism that we have on the left, we have on the right. Like we don't just come out the door and just sue someone and say, here's a simple fact. Here's what the 10th Amendment says. Here's what the 14th Amendment says. Mm-hmm. And here's what the Second Amendment says. And put it to bed. Like I'm a very reasonable person. I think most people feel the same way. They can come to a conclusion that we want safe environments. We can also come to the same conclusion that the safe environments have nothing that the left has done has created a safer environment. Crime is higher, it's not lower, right? And so we're going the wrong direction. It's like being told, hey, if you want to get to California from Utah, you got to go through China. It's just, instead of driving, you got to fly through China. And then once you get to China, you take a bus over here, and then we'll get you over here to Russia. And then from Russia, we'll take you to this bridge across Alaska. And that's the best way to get there. And that's what we've done on the Second Amendment. We have kicked the can so many times. We look like idiots. We have debated the ridiculous, and we have not taken a firm approach to just going through the front door. I feel like we always go through side doors. And I mean, even the Bruin case, same thing. They had an opportunity to expand and ask questions that would have led the Supreme Court to make rulings that would have allowed for us to have a better understanding of what it means in the Supreme Court. But yet they tailored it so narrowly. It's basically saying that you don't have to demonstrate proper cause in order to have a concealed carry permit. and that's a violation of the Second Amendment. Well, all you have to do is keep going down the line. And if that's the standard by which they had asked on the Bruen case, then how is it that they can come in and steal our rights to own whatever weapon we want to own as a law-abiding citizen?
Yeah, well, I think when it comes to the Supreme Court, and if you look at the decisions that they've rendered over the course of time, they generally don't take broad sweeping positions, right? They look at very specific issues, and even looking at Heller, for example, right? They said, yes, this is an individual right. And it was in the context inside the home on federal property, right? In DC. And then you get McDonald that says, oh yeah, this does apply to the states inside your home. And so Bruen was really looking at extending it outside your home. And one of the things that was wonderful though with Bruen is that we got a clear test to apply to future litigation. Unfortunately, I mean, what we saw post Heller was courts kind of morphing the guidelines that were put down by SCOTUS, and that's why part of what brought Bruen on, right, where we get this text, history, and tradition type of test. But legislators, I mean, they are free to legislate, and I going back to California for you, I heard a member of the Public Safety Committee once say that it's not our job to determine the constitutionality of a law. It's our job to pass the laws, which I think that there should be a lot more attention paid to that. That's just my personal opinion. But they're going to pass laws, and that's why we have the justice system to be able to pursue it and challenge the constitutionality of it. And that's what we're doing, and we're continuing to do that. And right now, we feel like the Second Amendment, with the test that's been laid out by Bruen, is the best course of action forward.
Okay. Dan, you just said something that I find interesting, and that is they do not take broad sweeping approaches to cases, and that those cases are typically turned down. You're right. And almost every opportunity they've had up into the right to kill a baby, the abortion, where they returned the right back to the states, that was one of the first times that they set a standard on the ability for states to control whether or not they did or did not allow for abortion. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
It was sweeping.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm familiar with the case, but that's not something that I personally dove into to get into the specifics of that case.
So I'm laying a foundation for you. This is what you would call opening arguments. Okay. All right.
Hey, this is why I got out of law right here. I didn't want to do that, right?
Yeah. So, but I study this stuff because I think it's important. Do you know what control theory? Do you know what control theory is?
Tell me about it.
Control theory is basically it's a study on how to influence behavior to get you to a desired state. So in other words, how do you actually create an environment? And incrementalism does that. Also, narrow scope on the Supreme Court also does that. Because in the middle of this control theory, bad things are happening to people. People are dying. People are being persecuted and prosecuted. And so there's always a revenue and or a finance component, a dollar amount that's coming across the table, because litigation is expensive, right? You'd say that you guys have spent hundreds of millions of dollars, if not more. I don't even know how to quantify how much money the NRA has spent protecting the rights of Americans, but it's a lot. And so if you look at this control theory and you look at what the Supreme Court's done, it becomes rather obvious. Because I'm going to ask you a question. I told you I was going to ask you this before. What's the 10th Amendment say, Dan?
So it's states' rights is the easiest way to break it down.
It says, but it says that whatever rights are not enumerated in the Constitution are then remanded and given to the states. But Dan, the Second Amendment is in the Constitution. It comes right after your ability to run your mouth. Now they on the state side, they do whatever they want. They're like, we get to stop them from talking. It's dangerous. Even though that's not the standard by which you're allowed or not allowed to run your mouth. You got an opinion, they say you're not allowed to have that opinion. Right? And you got the lawfare that's been created. Now we're on the Second Amendment, and every state has infringed on the right of the Second Amendment, yet it does not belong to the states. It belongs to the feds.
Yeah, and I think we can all, you and I can sit down and agree. And if we look at the Second Amendment, it's clear as day to us, right? I'm sure that we have a very similar opinion on what it says. And I think that you could get two people in the room when it comes to the First Amendment or the Fourth Amendment and say the same thing. However, there are regulations still going on by the states. There's still legislation happening, and there's still cases to this day that are going up to SCOTUS on that, right? And the 10th Amendment just doesn't have the same teeth to pursue litigation that the Second Amendment does at this point.
Well, let me ask you that question. I want to litigate this with you a little bit. I'm past my opening statements, right? Now I'm getting to the meat of things related to this.
Mm-hmm.
You said it doesn't have the same teeth. I mean, the last time I checked, and by the way, I had a law professor that said the same thing to me. And I was like, well, so is it like you're missing teeth? So when you bite down, the First Amendment, Second Amendment, it's bite. You got, but on the 10th Amendment, their teeth are missing. Is that what you're telling me? Like there's no ability to equally apply common sense and decency?
I'm saying that with the Second Amendment, right? Like when we look at a semi-auto ban or we look at a mag capacity ban, right? That's directly infringing on the Second Amendment, right? And so you look at that, right? You can show where it doesn't pass constitutional muster. You can apply the test, and that's a very direct right to go about it. I see what you're saying, and I think it's a really good conversation to be having to say, hey, we don't even need to talk about the nature of this. You're saying that they never had the ability to touch it in the first place, right? That's your position that you're taking?
Dan, you're taught in law school, just like you are taught in a debate class, that you can argue a position from both sides of the coin. What
Sure.
I'm saying is that if you flatten facts, if you flatten the Constitution, you put it on a table, you can't see both sides. You can only see the side that's up with the writing that says very clearly states do not have a right to infringe on anything that's enumerated in the Constitution and vice versa, which is why the Supreme Court ruled specifically that abortion rights had to be returned to the state. They didn't say you can't have an abortion. They just said the state has a right to remand and tell you what the standards for abortion are because it's not in the Constitution. So we can do it for one thing, but we can't do it for something that literally is ink dry. Like that ink was dry when they wrote it out, right?
I know,
everything. Right? So they won't address it for what reason? And I haven't gotten to the 14th Amendment yet. I'm just on the 10th. Why hasn't the NRA?
I think that that's a great conversation. Like when I talk to our litigation counsel, and he is amazing on this stuff, right? And they look at the best course of action for us to go and go about it. And I think that that's something that I know has been discussed, and I want to continue to discuss it with them because I think that you have a good point there when it comes to states' rights. But right now, like I said, when I talked to him most recently, I brought this up to him and I said, hey, what about this? And he's like, it's a good discussion. This has the best course of action for right now. But this is an evolving area of law, right? We're continuing to see, but if you look at the Bruin case, it's only a couple years old in that standard, and we're still seeing courts that are wrestling with it.
Well, they're not wrestling with it. They're dismissing it. I mean, let's be honest. Even in New York City, they're dismissing it. They're walking right past it. You get over here now. You don't have to tell me why. I can just tell you whether or not you can or can't. I can look at you and say, we're not giving you one.
Right, and right after the Bruin case came out, I can remember this in a California committee. There was a legislator who made a comment that just said, "Well, we need to even look at the validity of the Supreme Court." And you're saying it kind of went back to a point that you made earlier where you were talking about kind of the disdain and if someone doesn't agree with something, right? Like they like to go 1, 3, 4, 5 when they count the amendments, right? And the fact that they did not like that decision that came out, they're now going, well, maybe this institution isn't even valid, regardless of the hundreds of years of history that are surrounding it, because they didn't agree with the opinion, even though you and I can both look at it and say, man, the court has not really addressed this and given this amendment the respect and the clarity that it deserves.
Okay, so let's hypothetically say everything that you just said is true, right?
Mm-hmm.
and that they haven't, and their states are basically peeing on their Supreme Court. And the Biden Supreme Court ruled, and Biden's like, I'm not listening to the Supreme Court. So there's a total disregard for the rule of law. But the judiciary still says they have their teeth and that they can persecute at will. You have the Bossberg deal against President Trump, who now is going to hold people in contempt. Nothing to do with the gun rights. And let's just hypothetically say we walk past the states' rights. The states, they have a right to regulate the Second Amendment. They have that right. Let's just say that's true. But then you have to, you skip on down to the 14th Amendment.
Sure.
And it says that no person, I'm going to paraphrase this, no person in the United States has any more rights than anyone else in the United States. And there's equal protection under the law and equal rights of the law. So the 14th Amendment, am I right? Is that basically, did I paraphrase that right correctly?
Yeah, I mean, you can simplify it a lot, just like I simplified the 10th Amendment earlier, right? There's a lot that underlies it, but...
You said but.
I'm sorry. I just said there's a lot that goes into it. I mean, there's a whole bunch of jurisprudence as far as equal protection and how that looks. But that's a great summary.
Okay, so if all of that is true, if what I just said is true,
mm-hmm.
and the 14th Amendment says equal protection under the law,
mm-hmm.
that means that I should not be arrested in Florida for a Second Amendment issue for something that if I was in Pennsylvania or I was in California or Colorado would land me in jail. That means you have less rights in those states.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the Fourth Amendment, though, as you go through the test, the first thing you need to do is look at, is it a protected class, right? And so I don't know that you're going to get gun owner as a protected class in order to start the inquiry down the 14th Amendment.
What do you mean you wouldn't have it as a protected class?
Well, so you have to look at what's protected class. Are you discriminated based on gender, race, go down that inquiry?
Okay, I'm confused. Why would I have to go and become a protected class to have equal rights under the law? Because I've read the 14th Amendment. I've looked at that's not a standard by which the 14th Amendment is written. It certainly isn't written to say you have to be a protected class in order to get equal rights. Right? Are you saying that are
they discriminating based on something, or is the law being applied equally?
Well, the law is not being applied equally, because if the Second Amendment was applied equally, then you would not be able to arrest somebody in New York for something that you would be perfectly legally able to do.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, and you saw, the 14th Amendment being utilized to take Heller through the McDonald case, where this applies equally to federal law and state law. Yeah. So I just wanted to get on the same page with you as which direction you were going with your inquiry here.
Well, I think that one of the frustrations that people have, I know from a gun owner standpoint, obviously I have gun stores and ranges. I'm for the Second Amendment. I do teach people in the poorest communities that they have the right to carry a gun as well. They get to CCW. So we will reach into the poorest communities and say, look, you have a choice to make. And here's what happens in the poorest of communities. One, they're told that because they're black, they're not allowed to have a gun. So they go buy it in the back of a truck, right? The trunk of a car, rather than going to a gun store and buying it and becoming a responsible gun owner.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the reality. I mean, you can talk to anyone in the hood and they don't feel like they have the right to go in. And I could, Dan, I could tell you stories about.
I'm sure you could.
You get one of these kids to come in because you're mentoring them through this process. You're mentoring them through this process. And so you have them come in to buy a gun. I'm like, all right, do you have any felonies? Do you have any arrests? Do you have anything? They're like, no. Dan, they're sweating. they're sitting at the table as if the police are going to bust through the door of the gun store and arrest them. I kid you not. This is not one time. This is like multiple times. And I'm teaching them you can be a responsible gun owner, that you can protect your family, get a CCW, and they get into class and they're like, Joe, I'm the only black guy in here. And I'm like, yeah. I'm going to call the cops on you now. So you're not allowed to be here. And I crack jokes and have fun with them. But the reality of it is that they're taught that they don't have equal rights either by this same system.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned that. I worked at a gun store briefly, and you know, seeing kind of the reaction when people go in, and maybe whatever life circumstances have put them there, whether they, especially people who are not exposed to firearms and understanding of the right, the ability to go through and utilize proper channels to purchase a firearm, and you can see it for some people, it's a little bit nerve wracking as they go through and fill out the paperwork, and you know, they pass their check, or in what, you know, some states you're having a waiting period or whatnot, and you hand them the firearm, and you're like, you can walk out there. This is how you can lawfully transport it, etc. But I'm sure you have a lot more experience with that, with the number of stores you own and the type of training that you do. But yeah, I mean, it's important that people understand what their rights are, and that this is the appropriate way to go about doing it, right?
All right. So then walk me through the other part. Walk me through the part that that I want to see what the NRA is doing. So this is where the rubber meets the road. There was a time, and I challenged the NRA. I'm friends with Alan Gottlieb, Second Amendment Foundation.
Sure.
I've known him a long time. You could say he's really eccentric because he is. But the NRA is got an amazing opportunity. Like, I'm on the outside looking in, and
Sure.
And so I bring this stuff up, and we sponsor and have the NRA at our stores all the time. But there's an amazing opportunity to fortify and to have a very strong stance on these things. And I'm just going to tell you, the NRA hasn't been that forward leader, hadn't been the one to stand out the very front, and it's caused the support for the NRA to wane. And I'm an NRA member. Check it, a lifetime member. But what's the NRA doing to gain back the trust of the people in the country that truly need a champion? Not 500 champions, but a champion. The champion that the NRA for so long represented, and then they got deballed by the radical leftists, mostly in New York. And then from there, it hasn't fully recovered. How do we put the NRA back in a plane where they have the capabilities of really attacking these radicals that are trying to basically make us institutional slaves?
No, absolutely. And I appreciate that question. And it's one that comes about. Sometimes people will go, what's the NRA doing? How are they going to be, you know, they look to think that we took some time off. And in reality, so I work on the ILA side of things, right? And we're in the state legislatures across the entire country. And every state legislature, we have lobbyists that are working on legislation. And one of the things that right now we have new leadership at NRA that are laser focused. It's a really exciting time as we got past New York and the litigation there, and we're able to refocus those resources that were being bled out back into our programs, back into our membership, back into our lobbying efforts and our political efforts. And we have a great team internally that is working. And you probably saw in Colorado the level of engagement, the grassroots meetings that were taking place, the rallies, our lobbyists being at the Capitol and testifying. And so we're continuing to do that work. We have a great litigation team, obviously in some of these states where the political makeup is not great. We're being prompt, we're partnering and being wise with our litigation forces. There we've been joining with some other groups like Second Amendment Foundation on some litigation. We did so on the excise tax in California. We did so in Colorado, and that Colorado tax went into effect April 1st. And what did you see on April 1st? Bam, lawsuit, right? And so we're trying to be a lot more nimble and a lot more responsive when it comes to litigation, and utilizing those resources to not duplicate efforts. And so there's a lot more cohesiveness with some of the other groups as far as coordination on that. So you don't see 10 excise tax lawsuits getting dropped in. And we're doing the work on Capitol Hill, working with the Trump administration. And so it's exciting. There's a really good team in place. And as we really get past this, as you see the programs, I think that was one of the things that was hit a lot, was the programmatic side of NRA to get those clubs back up, the competitions, the trainings. You're going to see a revitalization of that. And you get a chance to talk with our CEO, Doug Hamlin. He'll talk a lot about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to him, and I'm gonna ask him some hard questions like I've asked you. And I know it's uncomfortable because I am your friend, right? So I am standing side by side with you. I am your brother in arms. I will take a bullet for you the way I would expect you to take a bullet for me. But I also recognize that as a guy that runs many businesses, from tech all the way across, I see regulations and I see things that are designed to institutionally stymie and or restrict people, right? And I see NRA as this 500,000-pound gorilla. I wanted to get back to the Heston days, right? where we really how many members do you have right now at the NRA?
Several million. I mean, I don't have that's if you look at NRA and you look at the big umbrella, you have the general ops side, you have the ILA side, and membership sits over on the ILA side. So we have several million members. I'm just not the best person to ask on that. If you want to talk about legislation at the state level across the country, I can give you a whole lot of information, but the day-to-day numbers is not my strong suit.
Well, I'm gonna do everything I can to see if I can get you guys back to the 20 million, the 30 million members, because I think that's where you have the strength, right? Is strength, power, and numbers.
Absolutely. And one of the things is, I'm every day you come across people and they say, I'm an NRA member, and then you realize that their membership's lapsed, right? Like, and so really getting people to engage, understand what we do, and I think that one of the things that we don't always do a great job of, this is a self-criticism, is to say what we're doing, right? I've gone and talked to different clubs as far as what our level of engagement is. And for like on the litigation side, for instance, I was just giving a talk recently out in California, and a similar type question came up, and someone said, well, what are you guys doing for us here? And I said, well, this is the litigation that we've been funding for years. And they said, well, we had no idea it was your case. And I said, well, yeah, there was a mindset that we weren't putting our name on litigation that we were supporting. And that's now shifting, and you're probably seeing NRA pop up a lot more as plaintiffs in these cases. But we weren't always doing that. We were utilizing state associations or whatnot. And so the idea that our members and gun owners really need to see that name on there, right? Sometimes in the government affairs space, one of the lobbyists on our state and local team or on our federal team can go and have 10, 15, 20 meetings. We're not going to go and talk about that, because that's just not really how you can be effective in that capital. Whereas sometimes someone might, post a little update or post a picture and say, hey, look, I'm outside this building. And the appearance is that there's more involvement. And so we just need to make sure that people know, see our people in those capitals testifying at those hearings. And I would encourage anyone that's listening to attend the legislative updates or the grassroots seminars that we do. And oftentimes we'll have our state directors who do the direct lobbying there to answer questions, to give you a little bit more of the inside baseball, the moving parts, and can tackle the questions on, hey, how did this amendment come about? What's going on? How did this die? How is this still alive? What are the perspectives of a certain bill or a certain piece of legislation, et cetera?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you, I think that as I'm sitting here hearing you talk, I do have the CEO's number. I'll be reaching out to him as well. I have some ideas on how I can help you. Now,
I love it.
I'm not that bright. I went to a state school. My books were lighter. They had less information in them.
Me too. I went to a state school.
So I've been lucky. I'm really lucky. I'm a lucky guy. Actually, I think that God just blessed me and gave me a brain. So I think that there's some things that I can do to help you. I do want to see NRA be stronger. I want it to take a firmer kind of foot in the ground. You will not take what is not yours. And I think that the NRA has taken a very academic approach, and academic approach is great because it allows people to be taught. The problem is that you're in the TikTok era, and the NRA cannot actually get their things across the finish line, and people understand these cases that you're involved in and the implications, downstream for the next generation and generation after, if we don't give it the ability to be heard. So we've got to break things down because people are just not that bright in some areas. And frankly, they have the attention span of an ant in other areas. So we got to figure out a way to put a message in front of them so they can support you. So when you put your hand in the air and say, no, we will not, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000, answer the call. That's the vision that I have for the NRA. And that's why when I talked to Mermaid, she said, yeah, you need to have a conversation with these guys. I was like, I'm all about it.
Yeah, no, and we're happy to have that conversation and to be on and go through it. And I love the discussion and answering the questions that are a little bit tough because it's something that's on your brain, on your heart. Obviously, you're very well versed in this area, and you live it every day, right? With your stores, with your training. And so it's important to have these conversations, whether it's on a podcast or whether it's on the phone or text message or, hey, Dan, I had this idea, or because we're always looking at it, right? The Second Amendment, it's if you would have asked me 14 years ago whether I would have been dealing with merchant category codes from payment processors, when it comes to working with NRA, I would have told you you're out of your mind, right? I didn't even know what an MCC code was, hardly, right? And so it is an evolving frontier, and we're continuing to see that. And we've seen that incremental approach by the anti-gun community, and they're perfectly happy taking that position because it's not a right that is cherished and held as tightly as it is for us. So whether they take all of it or a little bit each year is indifferent to them. They see that as progress and their movement. Whereas we've got to hold the line all the time to make sure we preserve this right, and it's so important in our lives and in the fabric of our country.
All right. Well, I appreciate you, Dan. How do people follow you? How do people follow the NRA? How do we get involved? I know NRA.org. You can go there pretty easy.
NRA.org is the best way to do it. And for anyone listening who's interested in legislation, I would absolutely encourage you to sign up to get the ILA alerts. They're generally unique to the state that you live in, but you can text NRA to 25017, or you can click on the link on any one of our alerts. That is the best way to stay up to date on what's happening in your state and on the federal level. Me personally, I keep a pretty low profile when it comes to social media. So you won't see a lot of that from me, but definitely follow NRA. We have a kind of a new media approach, and they're a lot more active. They've done a great job of getting our alerts out on social, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, etc. So follow NRA on all the social media platforms and get involved. Stay involved, get your friends to be involved. Anyone that's a gun owner, it's really important that they're engaged in some level.
All right. So I want you to know this, and this is not a plug badly on NRA, but someone just said, I didn't know NRA still existed. I haven't heard of them since Wayne LaPierre. That's the second one I've heard in the last 20 minutes. So we got work to do, Dan. We got work to do.
No doubt. No doubt, Joe.
All right. God bless you. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate the conversation.
All right. Sounds good. Take care. God bless you.
All right. Take care.
So I often hear a few things. One is, Joe, you know a lot about this. And I'm like, yeah, I do. And so I ask questions that are sensible questions. And let me ask you, I'm going to ask all of you this same question. You ready? Why don't they ever talk about the 10th Amendment or the 14th Amendment? And if what Dan is saying is true, if what he's saying is true and it doesn't have the same teeth, how could a constitution that is meant as the foundation be crumbling in one area and be positively supported in the other? And keep in mind, they've eroded the First Amendment, they've eroded the Second Amendment. There's not one amendment in the Constitution that the communists are not trying to throw out the window. So the more we go through this process, the more it becomes obvious that we are the intended target. We are the intended people that they want to make victims. Because we're always having a discussion as if that piece of paper, the Constitution, has two sides to it. It doesn't. It's got one side. Now, I've heard President Trump talk about protecting the Second Amendment. There's a task force the DOJ has put in place, and they're actually talking actively about how they preserve the rights of Americans across the country. At the same time, you have the state of California that's saying that they're somehow Superman. They're standing between Trump's policies and protecting the people in California. And so I would ask you the simple, and this is where I get into them using propagated media in this control theory in order to get people to think that what they're doing is good for you, that they care about you, but they don't. It's pretty easy. I'm going to ask everybody to do something really quick, if you would. We're trying to do something just as a basis for a lawsuit against Rumble as an inquiry. So if you could just go ahead and hit the share button, hit the little thumbs up button. I'm going to go through some things over the next couple of days. We're sending emails and people to Rumble specifically because I want to prove a point when we go out and file a lawsuit. I might lose a lawsuit. I might lose it just because they might say, well, they're public and they do whatever they want. I want them to have to admit the fact that they're defrauding everyone by saying that they're actually an uncensored platform, because they're not. They basically pick their winners and losers on Rumble. So go ahead and do that for me if you would while you're over on the deal. So I should have somewhere around another 170 people that like the thing on Untamed Nation. Okay. So the NRA, I'm going to do some things to help them. And because I do believe in them. I believe in the idea of them. Now let's talk about the social fabric eroding to nothing. You take away the Second Amendment, you take God out of your school, you kill black babies. You say, Joe, why are you talking about black babies? Somebody said something to me on X today. So you don't care about the fatherless because of this clown that they sent back to El Salvador, this MS-13 kid, which, by the way, was involved in the investigation into a murder. And of course, his little pompous ass, acted like he didn't know anything to do with it. But there's multiple cases inside of Maryland where his wife had to call the police because he was beating her over and over and over again. Gave her a black eye, beat her, ripped her shirt and pants off her. I mean, that sounds like a great guy. I mean, the picture they put up is this really nice kid. And it goes to show you that evil comes with a face in front of it. But he said, Joe, you don't care about the fatherless. These kids are going to grow up without a father. And I was like, well, it's better than the fatherless that are created, because this MS-13 piece of trash goes out and kills somebody else's father that then leaves those kids to be left alone. And he has no ability to, and this is where you get into common sense. Yeah, I actually do want to stop the fatherlessness. I want to stop two things can be true at the same time. But the arguments of the idiots, and kind of like the arguments of the Second Amendment, are so narrowly focused that they only want you to look at, well, you don't care about the fatherless. Not at the fact that this diabolical maniac, this MS-13 guy that beats his own wife and probably his own kids, who's a part of MS-13 that was already involved in a murder investigation, who is now down in El Salvador. It's not oops, we made a mistake. Oops, he's El Salvadorian. They don't want to put him on the street because he's a diabolical maniac, and they know he's a diabolical maniac. But they want you to narrowly look at one thing and forget about all the other evidence. It's kind of like what they did on the election. It's kind of like when Chris Krebs sat up there and said, oh, we got this center and we look at misinformation and disinformation. But the reality of it is that that's not their job. Their job is to produce a product. Our job as American is to produce a product. Our product is our children. And yet we let them narrowly focus in on things so they can build a story so that you have to keep regurgitating and keep fighting foundationally against the ridiculous. Case in point, let's go back to something on the high school student, Karemlo Anthony, who got into an altercation with Austin Metcalf. They're both 17 years old. One's dead, one's not. Karemlo stabbed Austin in the chest, leading to him dying in his twin brother's arms. And much like the death of Brian, the United, and here's my problem. And here's where the circumstances you feel because you've gone through those things, they start to creep up. You start to understand the mentality that some of these people have to justify what happened. I'm not exempt from it either. But you have people that are expressing support, not for Austin Metcalf, but for the murderer, Karemlo. I'm going to show you some things now. Dominique Alexander, he's a convicted felon. Now, but by the way, that doesn't hold a lot of weight for me until you get to what he did. He beat a baby to the point of brain injury. This piece of trash beat a baby to the point of a brain injury. He held a press conference for admitted murderer Karemlo Anthony, and he attacked the father of the teen. I want you to remember what they did to Alex Jones, because this is the same thing. Claiming it was disrespectful for him to attend Karmelo's press conference because he's attacking the father of the teen that Anthony killed. Let's go ahead and play it.
And all I'm going to say, so it don't be asked later, is that was disrespectful and just shows you all the character who was not invited. He knows that it's inappropriate to be near this family, but he did it. And so I say to people, actions speak louder than words. Okay? What he has failed into is the political operatives that want to make this thing a political thing of hate, yet bigotry, and yet racism. We have conservative operatives that have been posting nonstop about this case.
So let me just tell you right now what would happen if somebody killed my kid. Okay? He's lucky that Austin's father only showed up to that press conference. He's lucky. See, I'm going to tell you right now, I know myself well enough to know that I'm sitting here talking to you right now. I know myself well enough to know that nothing would come between me and the consequence of what would happen to the person that hurt my son. Nothing. You murder my son. You murder my child. You hurt someone in my family. And I'm not even sure I'd end with you. I'm not. Can I be honest? Do you want me to be honest? Do you want me to lie to you? Do you want me to walk past this and just be like, like I'm built a certain way. And I wish I wasn't. I wish I wasn't. And that smug little punk ass kid sat behind him and smirked. You murdered someone. No remorse. I mean, if there was remorse, if there was anything, if you could have justified And you could say he told me to move. All right. You got two hands, use them. You want to be a big boy? You want to fight? Fight. Put up your hands. Mutual combat. Get into it. Let's go. But you show up with a large knife and you stick it through the chest of another human being because you think you can. And then you stand on the corner of bigotry and racism. Get the hell out of here. See, I know what bigotry and racism looks like. I know what it looks like. I know what it means to have this caste system that says, hey, when you're poor, the only way you get out is if we tell you you can get out. I know what it looks like to fight my way out of it. I'm not going to tell you it's easy. I'm not going to tell you that you're not going to have to fight to the point where you hurt someone badly. I'm not going to tell you that either. But I am going to tell you that's not the case here. The case here is we've eroded everything about our society to a place where it's acceptable to stand up for the most demonic among us. And I can still say, hey, man, you could have gotten in a fight. You could have done a lot of things, but you went straight to murder. You went from zero to murder. And now this piece of trash that stood up there saying it's bigotry and you got conservative operatives. Man, it doesn't matter if you're conservative or liberal. If you got a half a brain in your head, you know you don't carry around a steak knife and try to put it through the chest of someone if you're a sane individual. You want to dress them up in some little suit that you got off of people that basically rewarded him for killing a white kid. And this anti-white hate, that's bullshit. The fact that we even have to deal with it is baloney. But that is the dangers of what they've done in our society. My generation we were way, man, I tell you what, you got through the 80s. 80s were terrible. You got into the 90s, all of a sudden, black, white, green, we didn't care. We didn't care. We didn't. All of a sudden, you open up the floodgates, bring people from other countries. You got George Soros in here creating chaos. You got the radical left that said, we need to get rid of illegals. Now we're going to let them all in. And the guy that's representing this killer is a guy that beat a child, a baby, so bad it was brain injured. And let me tell you something. There was a point at which I was going to adopt a child. And I went into the city and county of Denver, and they put out this book in front of me, and they're like, here's the kids you can adopt. And I'm like, okay. And I open it up, and it's all white kids. It's the greatest thing. I was like, this is all you got? They're like, we try to keep the kids with their own kind. This is in Denver. You see, the racists and the bigots are like that piece of crap that was up there that beat a child to the point where it will never have a normal life for the rest of his life. And here you go. Here's what he said. He's mad that people are exposing him for being a felon and a grifter. Let's go to cut 2 real quick.
Sarah Fields. Never heard of this woman. This is the kind of despicable things that led to the father being here. Political operatives motivating this family with hate. Karemlo Anthony posted on something that shows, posted here. These are the type of lies that are threatening this family. Posting the family's picture. These are the type of lies. She's getting millions of views on this. Sarah, she's even came after me. She's even said all of those things. And now that the public knows exactly what is going on, I ask, because these racist bigots try to prevent us from standing up for our baby, our boy, he should be afforded the same rights that Kyle Rittenhouse had, Daniel Pena, and all of the people who have claimed whatever their defense was. He should be afforded the same right. Nobody in the public media has one video camera, but we got the video of Kyle Rittenhouse with an AK-47 shooting 3 people in the back. We got that. And he raised more than $2 million publicly, and nobody said anything. So since they tried to come for us, I call for the community's overwhelming support for this fund. The disinformation that was put out was literally deliberate to prevent you from helping this family.
Dominique Alexander, he softly went over the fact that they came after him. He's a felon who beat a baby to the point of brain injury and is acting like an advocate. He tried to meld it into lies. And here's the reality. Ready for this? He's a grifting, race-baiting, terrible human being. And I'm not tying that to Karemlo Anthony. I'm tying that directly to who he is. And the post that this is on, by the way, this video is on, Dominique Alexander, an advocate for Karemlo Anthony's family, is angry that I exposed him for who he is, a grifting, racist, pot-stirring, running a fraudulent organization, which is true. It's a fraudulent organization. He called me out by name during the press conference. He held me up my post, including Karemlo's arrest report, which I obtained through a FOIA. In a post of which I was threatened a strange choice of highlight, among others. He claims my intent was to interfere with the Karemlo family receiving assistance. The man has placed a target on me and my family for reporting the truth and investigating him and his organization. This is who he is, and I will not be intimidated. I am no stranger to threats. I received them nearly every hour for the last 4 days. It will likely get worse. Please pray for my family. Apollo, do you remember what I had to say on this show to stop people from coming to my house and being idiots?
Yeah, you had to tell people publicly and very clearly that you would put anyone who came to your house to hurt you or your family in a body bag.
I had to do that. Do you know the type of decision that you have to make in your life as a person? You have to make a decision in your life to say, no, I've already set here's the line in the sand. And if anyone knows anything about me, once I put that line in the sand, you step over it, you're done. Like I put a line out there. I'll fire a family member. Don't care. You step over my line, we're finished. And they went after her. For what? It gets worse. It's so much worse. He's not only having press conferences held and to have people support him. He received over $500,000 of donations. He's selling merchandise in his name. And he had a bond drop from $1 million to $250,000. Here you go. $447,000. And the funds will be received by Kayla Hayes. Do we have the thing on this, by the way? Do we have the thing on this that shows the what's this other one? They just bought a house. Family just bought a house.
Yep. $860,000.
What's that?
Yep, $860,000.
$860,000 house.
Got merch for him.
Justice for Karemlo Anthony. He murdered a kid, and you want justice for Karemlo Anthony. Now, here's the other thing. Let me just tell you something about Dominique, what he said. He goes, we have Kyle Rittenhouse shooting someone in the back 3 times. Paulo, did anybody get shot in the back 3 times?
No.
They're just liars. Not only is he a baby beaten, come after me, bro. Come after me. Come after me, Dominique. Not only is he a baby beating felon, but he lied. And they create this thing. It's just like Rittenhouse. He has the same. No. He plunged a knife into the chest of another 17-year-old kid. And what kind of parents raises that type of monster? I'll have to ask that question. But it gets better. They bought a new home. Now, the Daily Mail had to do this article because you couldn't have done it. You couldn't have done it. Karemlo Anthony receives a parade of deliveries at family's $900,000 gated community home after crying poor to get out of jail. And you know where the money's coming from? It's coming from political operatives on the left. There's not this money that's being funneled through to this family is to make them an example out there so that you can do whatever you want. That's why, I mean, and you have people out there like, oh, you know, they've been bullying us. White people have been bullying us forever. I'm thinking to myself, on what planet? The only bullying that's ever happened is the radical leftist white liberal women trying to convince you that you have a right to kill your own babies. You have no right to education, created a desert in the entire inner city. That's the reality. That you're not entitled to food, you're not entitled to education, you're not entitled to opportunity. All the deserts for all that stuff, you're cut off from it. And the school to prison pipeline exists, and it exists not by conservatives like this piece of shit said. It exists because the people in your own community betray you. Black, white, doesn't matter if they're black, they're still betraying you. Anything to get a couple dollars, they'll step over your body. But no, we're white people bullying you. And you haven't even run into enough white people if you're in the inner city to even make a difference, unless they were liberal lefties. The most disgusting part about all of this is that we haven't even started to have a conversation about the young man that was killed. So I put this up. I put this post up. And it's because this minister, Dominique Alexander, this multiple felon propping up a murderer supported by psychopaths. Let me explain to you what is happening while you sit and watch. South Africa 2.0. They tried it there first. It worked. We must collectively, as black, white, brown, even purple, stand in one side. The side of opportunity and accountability, while we send the thugs and street trash, including the radical judges, to the other side. Evil must be crushed. You'd say, Joe, you use such strong language. Can you be less strong? And I'm thinking to myself, what has less strong? What has decorum gotten us so far? Now, I'm all for forgiveness. I am. But to what extent? To what extent? To what extent am I supposed to be forgiving? I mean, I know the Bible says to forgive. Was it 7 times 70? But it doesn't say anywhere in the Bible that you're not supposed to be a warrior and stand against evil. You forgive good people. You crush evil people. That's the reality. And if it's not true, then why are police officers allowed to have justified shootings? I'm not even telling you that most of those are justified. Why is it that evil people are allowed to shoot up at other people and you got to, let them out after 2 years? No, you don't. But there is a cause and effect to everything that we do. And while we sit here and we debate the ridiculous, we forget about the fact that it's a flat sheet of paper. The foundation of what we're talking about is very simple. Subject 1, plunged a knife into subject 2's chest, killing him instantly. Subject 1 was over sitting down. There was no imminent threat to life, but he escalated it not at the +1, but a +200. I'm going to end this person's life. That's the reality. That's what happened. And then all the frustration, and this is where it gets really interesting, all the frustration that people feel because someone stuck a stick in their side and it's been infected for a long time, came out to, I want to support this. I want to support this criminal, this thug. And how you know that only criminals and thugs would support him? The person that's actually propping him up? Yeah, he's a felon that beats babies. At the same time, if I'm being absolutely transparent, which I will be, when, what was the guy's name? They kneeled on his neck. Darren showed him, but the guy that they put on his neck, why can't I remember? George Floyd. When I first heard about George Floyd, up until the point that I was probably 22, FTP was a real part of my life. Now, if you know what FTP is, it's F the police. Because they never did anything in my life that was ever worth anything to be revered. They punished everyone in my life every time that they came into contact with us. Till I was 21. And I met a guy who was in the RDU, Rapid Deployment Unit, worked in DC. Super good guy. His name's Gary. And he showed me something different as a police officer. And it was a paradigm crash for me because I didn't trust him. So I went on a ride along with him. And it changed my life. He changed my life. Now I was doing well. I wanted to go, but I still had this behavior in my head that I did not like the police at all. They were bad. I've seen them do bad things to a lot of people. Sweep it under the rug and lie about it. It was everyday occurrence. When we said 5-0, it was run. Anybody said 5-0, you were gone. But I thought that George Floyd, I thought they actually did something bad to him. So imagine how many other people bought into it for the first probably day and a half. I was like, yeah, man, the police did what the police do. Keep in mind, they murdered my brother in 2017, then lied about it, built all sorts of stories. So I have this renewed thing where they killed my brother and they're trying to get away with it. And we're sitting here as conservatives, right, and liberals, because I have a bunch of liberals in here as well. And we're talking through this whole thing, and it's you can't help but look at it and go, oh my gosh, I fall in the same trap as people do for this kid, because I have these experiences that don't make me want to support them. I don't want to support the bad guys. And a lot of times the bad guys, and look, my approach towards police has changed over the years. I'm still dealing with the same thing. I'm with my brother. I have not gotten justice. But a lot of people haven't. And at the same time, I back the blue in my neighborhood because they're all good people. I've met them. I've talked to them. But how do you support? How do you not wrestle with the reality that there's bad among the good? There's bad among the good on black, bad among the good on white. Imagine a bad person, by the way, comes into contact with on the average of 40 people a day. So if you're a crappy person, you are influencing the opinion of the other. Let's say that 20 of those are a different race. I just made that up. And you're a bad person. You are literally pissing on 20 people from the different race every day, 365 days a year. You think you can create relationships and cause people to distrust black people or white people or Asian people or police officers or judges? You think it's possible? I think it's probable. It's probable. John B. What are we talking about here? It says, yeah, the criminal thug. He was a criminal thug. John B. saying for the years, what's going on in South Africa is coming here. Yeah, he has. You're right. You're right, Brad. He has absolutely said that. Midnight to Caravan to Midnight. And I think who he's talking about. John B. Wells, yeah. But that's what we're dealing with right now. South Africa 2.0. The idea that one race is superior. I can tell you what race thinks they're superior. They think they're a race, which is weird. Sorry, it's weird. Super weird. Like we're all built in God's image. All of us. God didn't pick sides when he made humanity. The Bible actually doesn't even say anything about the fact that he made man in his own image. And it doesn't say, oh, but the image is these people. They're the chosen ones. He didn't give, I'm going to say it. You're not going to like it. He didn't say that the Israelites get to inherit the earth. He commanded us all to follow him. And in following him, we will have eternal life. Truth. It's in the Old Testament and the New Testament. All right. But it's unraveling a little bit. And so I want to kind of put this up if I can, that our society, the fabric of our society is unraveling by design. And I'm going to play this for you, if we can. And that's why we can say, without a doubt, that the title of this episode, that Austin Metcalf's story reaffirms the title, that self-defense from violent attacks is a human right. And yet we walk right past it every day and we let people justify the other part. Let's go, let's listen to this real quick. It's a couple minutes long.
There are way too many people out there who look like me, who are rushing to defend Karemlo Anthony because he looks like them. But those same people, instead of being upset with Karemlo Anthony, are going to be upset with me for what I'm about to say. This was always what the radical BLM movement was going to eventually lead to. The most basic, reductive form of tribalism based on skin color alone. We can't even agree anymore on what is right and what is wrong. We've been reduced now to our most basic identifying characteristics. You know, the correct way to process this would be to demand justice for the victim and make sure that punishments are handed out that fits the crime. It doesn't even matter if the victim was allegedly racist. That's not a reason or excuse to take someone's life away. I mean, he shouldn't even have had a knife on school grounds anyway. That's a felony in the state of Texas, am I right? But y'all like felons. That's why y'all made a hero out of George Floyd. Never mind. But now you've got Karemlo Anthony's family moving into a almost $1 million house, getting new cars, you know, after they raised so much money with this legal defense fund, GoFundMe. And that's because people took up and donated for him because they saw no issue with what transpired. They saw no issue, apparently, with this loss of life. And it has to do all too often just because of the color of one person's skin. And it shouldn't be that way. And you know, now the family says they need extra security too. Really? After what Karemlo did, you need more security. Because it seems like you have all the security you need right there under your nose. But I digress. Now, basically, what they're going to say to me is, they're going to say, oh, you are a sellout, you are an Uncle Tom, you are a coon, you are acting white. You're going to say this and that because apparently speaking out against degenerate behavior now means that I'm acting white, means that I'm some sort of sellout. This is the mentality that needs to stop. They're going to say, you're not invited to the cookout. You're not allowed to the cookout. Like, oh, so your idea of who should come to a cookout is someone whose idea of conflict resolution is jumping up and slashing with a knife? I don't think so. I don't want to be at your cookout. That's all fine and good with me. But I'm so sick and tired of this mentality continuing. It's only going to stop when we have more people who are brave enough and bold enough to stand up and speak out for what is right, regardless of the blowback. And that's what I'm going to do. And so it doesn't matter if you call me a coon or Uncle Tom or a sellout. It doesn't matter. What matters is what is right and what is wrong. And this is wrong. And we should all be able to at least agree on that.
We should be allowed to disagree on that. I mean, think about it. We should. I agree. All right. Well, that's all I got for you today. We are unraveling as we speak. And the NRA is still alive. To Jeff Steele, it is still here. And the Second Amendment Foundation and there's a ton of other organizations that are fighting for your Second Amendment right. But the NRA is still around. I just think it lacks teeth, kind of like the 10th Amendment and the 14th Amendment. Nobody pursues them. It's like I don't know. It's like the inside of a Cracker Jack box. You know, there's writing on it, but nobody ever breaks it open to read it. It's the part that nobody thinks is foundationally important to anything that we're talking about. But neither is the First Amendment or the Second Amendment, I don't think. We've got some great guests coming up over the next couple of days. I am going to get the NRA CEO to come on as well. So we have some crazy stuff that we're going to get done. Where I'm going to just kind of do some housekeeping really quick. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more. If you're listening to this on the radio station or the BEK network, remember to go to our website, untamednation.com, and go ahead and subscribe. Most of you are subscribed already. I can't do anything about Rumble. I'm going to start a campaign going after Chris Pavlovsky because I think the guy's doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing. He's been called by the little fat man, and that, hey, we need to make sure that Altman doesn't have any sort of steam here. It is. I'm a man with on an island. I have no team. I have the American team. I'm like on the Americans. Yeah, I'm on your team. I'm not on anybody's team. I'm on President Trump's team. You know why? Because President Trump has proven that he will stand up regardless of who takes the shots at him. But like President Trump said when he was in the White House and he had a sports team that was there, he's like, I'm not going to introduce the senators because I don't particularly like them. Well, in politics, I have a lot of people I like, but here's what happens. You have this person that calls this person and says, oh, you're not allowed to talk to Joe Altman. If you do, I'm out. Do you know how many times that happens in a week? And it's always the same people. It's always the same little shitbags that do it. That's what you deal with when you deal with in politics and you deal in this circle of a bunch of people who, frankly, if you took away the mic, they would have no value to their lives or anybody else's life. And what I learned when David launched the movie for Let My People Go, and he put it out there, is one, nobody sued him. Dominion didn't sue him. Why? Because they knew that he knew, and he was highly competent, number one. But number two, it also proved, and it very much so easily solidified the other people that said, oh yeah, we're going to support you. We're going to put it out there so that more people can see it. And the second that the Ruby Shea deal came with $160 million, it was all planned. All planned. It's, oh, I can't say anything about it. You need to take this part out of your movie. Take this part out. They wanted to manipulate the movie because that's how fraudulent those people are. That's how weak and pathetic and cowardly they are. And boy, do I have an account. And the last thing that I'll tell you is that I have started writing this kind of manuscript, this book. Boy, Apollo, it's going to be a good book, huh? Yeah. Man. The last 5 years has been unbelievable. Unbelievable. 5 years, or 20 years in 5 years. Pretty crazy. All right, let's pray it out, shall we? Oh, yeah. I don't know. Before I what? Give away stuff? Oh, Liberty Fest? To get somebody out here? Is that it? I don't know. Just everybody go buy stickers. Go to Honor Bound USA, buy stickers. I was on a call today with someone that was wearing my hat, which was awesome. So Mark, that was cool. He bought the hat and he's like, yeah, people keep asking me about my hat. I was like, well, just send them to Honor Bound USA, get another hat. I want to see these hats running around everywhere. It's going to be awesome. And thank you for all those people that do support us. I do appreciate it. Yeah, there you go. So just sell me out of the stickers. I think we have, 20,000 or so more left. We were like, oh, just buy your 20-pack. And make sure that it might get itself to someone's hands that might put it on a gas pump. I want to see them on gas pumps everywhere. And then take pictures of it and send it to me. That'll be good. All right, that's it. Let's go. Let's get it on. I'm going to go do some things. All right. Father God, thank you for our guest, Dan from the NRA. Thank you for common sense and common decency, which I think represents probably most of the people in America. Father, we're grateful for you giving us a chance to kind of save what this country has become. It's still a mess, and I know there's much more work to be done. So we would just, Father, we just ask that you give us the path, the vision, the voices that are needed in our heads in order to walk a certain path that you want us to be on. Help us, Father, that we may honor you on that path. And I made some admissions today that, that fall outside of really what I should do. So, Father, forgive me for the things that I know about my flesh that I wish, and actually maybe you can change my heart on those things, but I know it doesn't make it right. So forgive me, Father. Father, help us that we may walk a path and stay focused on each other. Set aside petty differences, do things to help each other grow. And help us, Father, we can heal as a community, as a country. And I would really, really like it if we could get rid of these really bad people. I mean, there's so many of them that are in leadership positions. Father, I just ask you to give us the ability to have patience, to walk the path the way you'd want us to walk it. And help us that we may honor you in our decisions and the things that we do collectively together. I ask these things humbly in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Here we go. I'll see you guys tomorrow, same time, same bat station. And be good to each other, and God bless you. And make sure you hit the share button on your way out. You are the ambassadors of truth. You are the ones that get things done. And I'll see you on the other side.